I'm 38 years old, or at least that's how old I was when my life split cleanly into before and after. Before, I was just a regular guy with a steady job, a small rented house, a girlfriend I thought I'd marry, and the quiet belief that things were finally lining up for me. Nothing flashy. Just stable. Normal. Safe. Her name was Maya. We'd been together a little over 3 years. We didn't live together full time, but she stayed over most nights. She had a toothbrush in my bathroom, clothes in my closet, and a mug she insisted was hers. My parents liked her. My sister adored her. My friends said I looked calmer with her, like I'd finally stopped running from something. I'd been through messy relationships before, the kind that burn hot and crash hard. This wasn't like that. This felt grown up. Planned. We talked about kids. Someday. About where we might move, about how annoying my snoring was going to be forever. We argued, sure, but nothing explosive. Nothing that felt unfixable. Looking back, that's the part that messes with me the most. Life didn't feel fragile. It felt settled. Like I could finally exhale. Then one Tuesday morning, I woke up alone. No note. No goodbye kiss. Just silence where she should have been. I remember standing in the kitchen, staring at her mug, still dirty in the sink, and thinking she must have just left early for work. I texted her something stupid like, "You forget something?" I had no idea that by the end of that day, the life I thought I had would already be over. Maya and I met in the most boring way possible, through mutual friends at a backyard barbecue. She laughed at my dumb joke about overcooked burgers, and that was it. No lightning bolt, no dramatic moment. Just comfort. Easy conversation. Familiarity from day one. She told me early on that she'd been hurt before. Long-term relationship, emotional neglect, vague references to bad decisions. I didn't pry. I figured everyone in their 30s had scars. I certainly did. I liked that she didn't pretend to be perfect. There were little things I brushed off back then. She was protective of her phone. Always face down, always on silent. She said she hated notifications. Fair enough. She also had a male friend from work. She texted a lot. She mentioned him casually, never with details. I told myself I wasn't the jealous type anymore. Sometimes she'd go quiet for a day or two. Not ghosting, just distant. Short replies. Busy day. Tired. When I asked if everything was okay, she'd smile and say, "Just life." I accepted that. I didn't want to be the needy guy. I trusted her because trusting felt easier than doubting. And because when things were good, they were really good. She'd curl up next to me on the couch and trace circles on my arm. She'd talk about our future like it was a given, not a question. In hindsight, I see how much I filled in the gaps myself. I assumed commitment where there was convenience. Honesty where there was omission. Love where there was comfort. But at the time, I thought ignoring red flags was just what mature relationships looked like. About 6 months before she disappeared, something shifted. I couldn't have named it then, but the air felt heavier. She stopped staying over as much. Said she needed space, to get her head right. Not space from me, she insisted. Just space in general. We still saw each other. Dates, dinners, weekends away. But there was a distance in her eyes I couldn't close. She laughed less. Touched me less. Sometimes she'd pull away when I reached for her, then apologize like it was a reflex. I asked her outright if she was unhappy. She said no. I asked if she was seeing someone else. She looked offended. Hurt. "I can't believe you'd think that," she said. I apologized. I felt like the bad guy. After that, I stopped asking questions. I remember one night lying next to her, staring at the ceiling while she slept. I felt this knot in my chest I couldn't explain. Not fear exactly. More like anticipation of something bad I didn't want to imagine. She started talking more about her family around then. Complicated relationships. Secrets. things not being what they seemed. I thought she was just opening up. Now I wonder if she was rehearsing honesty she couldn't bring herself to give. The week before everything ended, she was unusually affectionate. Texting me good morning. Sending old photos of us. Saying things like, "I'm really grateful for you." It felt nice, but also heavy. Like a goodbye wrapped in kindness. I ignored that feeling too. Because if there's one thing I was very good at back then, it was convincing myself that discomfort was just anxiety, not intuition. The first real crack came on a Sunday afternoon. We were supposed to meet for lunch. She didn't show. No text. No call. An hour passed, then two. I tried calling her and went straight to voicemail. I told myself her phone died. That she'd gotten stuck somewhere. That I was overreacting. By evening, the worry turned sharp. I drove by her apartment, something I'd never done uninvited before. Her car was gone. Lights off. I sat there longer than I cared to admit, feeling ridiculous and exposed. When I finally went home, my phone buzzed. It wasn't from her. It was a message request on social media from a name I didn't recognize. No profile picture. Just a single line. "I think you deserve to know the truth about Maya." My stomach dropped. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering, heart pounding like I was about to open a door I couldn't close. I didn't reply. I didn't accept. I just locked my phone and paced my living room. She texted later that night. "Sorry. Long day. Can we talk tomorrow?" I said yes. I didn't mention the message. I told myself it was probably a scam, or a jealous ex, or someone stirring drama. Anything but what my gut was screaming. That night I barely slept. I kept replaying moments, searching for hidden meanings. I hated myself for doubting her. I hated myself more for knowing something was wrong. By morning, the message request was gone. Deleted or unsent. I told myself that meant nothing. I would learn very soon how wrong I was. I never got that conversation she promised. Instead, at 7:14 a.m., I woke up to a text from her. No greeting. No context. Just one message. "I can't be with you. I'm pregnant with someone else's child." That was it. No explanation. No apology. No punctuation beyond the period that felt like a slammed door. I read it over and over, convinced I was misreading it. That my brain was rearranging words out of panic. I called her immediately. Straight to voicemail. I texted back. "What do you mean?" Then, "Is this a joke?" Then, "Please call me." Nothing. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in my hand, shaking. My first thought wasn't anger. It was confusion. Like the world had suddenly stopped following the rules I understood. Pregnant. Someone else's. How long? Who? While we were together? Was I ever real to her? I scrolled back through our recent messages, looking for clues. Heart emojis. Future plans. A photo she sent me 3 days earlier with the caption, "Us always." I felt stupid. Naive. Like I'd been acting in a play where everyone else knew the ending but me. I finally stood up and threw up in the bathroom sink. I didn't cry yet. I couldn't. I felt hollow, like all the air had been sucked out of me. I kept thinking there must be more. That she'd explain. That this wasn't the whole story. But deep down, something inside me already knew. This wasn't a conversation. It was a disappearance. The rest of that day passed in fragments. I called in sick to work but couldn't focus on anything long enough to distract myself. Every few minutes, I checked my phone, hoping for a follow-up message that never came. I drove to her apartment again. Her car was still gone. This time, the place felt abandoned. Like she'd already erased herself. I started spiraling through questions that had no answers. Was the baby his or could it be mine? Did she ever plan to tell me in person? Did she think this one text was enough to end 3 years? I oscillated between denial and humiliation. part of me kept thinking there had been a mistake. That maybe she'd sent that message to the wrong person. That she'd call, laughing nervously, saying, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, that wasn't meant for you." Another part of me felt exposed, like everyone around me could see the truth written on my face. He didn't know. He was the fool. I tried calling again that night. This time, her voicemail was full. That's when it hit me that she wasn't just avoiding a conversation. She was gone. Deliberately. Cleanly. Like I was something she needed to cut out quickly before it complicated her next life. I punched my couch. Then my wall. Then I slid down to the floor and finally cried, hard and ugly. I wasn't just losing her. I was losing the version of myself who thought he understood his own life. 2 days later, I finally heard from her. Not a call. An email. It was long, carefully written, and somehow completely empty. She said she was sorry for the pain she caused. That she hadn't planned for things to happen the way they did. That the pregnancy changed everything. She said the father was someone from her past. Someone she'd reconnected with briefly during a confusing time. She didn't specify when. She said it didn't feel fair to keep seeing me once she knew. I replied immediately. I asked for honesty. Timeline. Answers. I told her I deserved at least that. She wrote back once more. I can't talk about details. I need to focus on what's ahead. Please respect that. That was the closest thing to a boundary she'd ever set with me, and it crushed me. I asked to meet in person. Just once. She said no. Said it would make things harder. Harder for who? I felt erased. Like our entire relationship had been reduced to an inconvenience she needed to manage efficiently. No room for my questions. No space for my grief. I typed and deleted messages for hours. Angry ones? Begging ones? Calm, reasonable ones. None of them changed anything. In the end, she stopped responding altogether. That silence was louder than any fight we'd ever had. The anger came later. At first, it was just sadness and shock. A constant ache in my chest, like something essential had been removed. Then the anger hit, sharp and relentless. I replayed every moment, every lie of omission, every time she'd made me feel crazy for asking questions. I felt used. Like I'd been an emotional placeholder while she sorted out her real life. I was angry at her, yes. But I was also angry at myself. For ignoring my instincts. For apologizing when I shouldn't have. For trusting so completely. Sleep became impossible. When I did sleep, I dreamed of her knocking on my door, crying, saying it was all a mistake. I'd wake up sweating, reaching for a phone that never buzzed. Friends tried to help. They said the usual things. You dodged a bullet. Better now than later. I nodded and smiled and felt completely disconnected from their words. My parents noticed something was wrong. I told them we'd broken up. I didn't tell them why. I couldn't bring myself to say it out loud. Everywhere I looked, there were reminders. Her mug. Her favorite spot on the couch. The plant she insisted on buying that I now forgot to water. I didn't just miss her. I missed the future I'd been quietly building in my head. And there was no one to grieve that with but myself. The shame surprised me more than anything. I felt embarrassed, like I'd failed some invisible test of adulthood. Like I should have known better at my age. I stopped going out. I avoided mutual friends because I didn't know what she told them, if anything. I didn't want to be the guy people whispered about. The one who got left for someone else. The one who didn't see it coming. I wondered if she ever loved me, or if I'd just been convenient. That question haunted me. It still does. There were nights I almost messaged her again, not to fight, but to ask something pathetic like, was any of it real? I never sent those messages. I knew the answers wouldn't help. I started therapy, mostly because I couldn't stand the noise in my own head anymore. Saying the words out loud. She left me because she was pregnant with someone else's child. Felt surreal every time. My therapist said something that stuck with me. Closure isn't something other people give us. It's something we build when they refuse. At the time, that felt like a cop-out. I wanted answers. Accountability. A conversation that acknowledged I'd mattered. But all I had was silence. And learning to live with that silence was its own kind of grief. Months passed. Life resumed on the surface. I went back to work. I laughed at jokes. I showed up to family dinners. But something in me had shifted permanently. I became cautious in a way I never had been before. Guarded. Hyper-aware of small changes in people's behavior. A delayed text could send my heart racing. I heard through a mutual friend that she'd moved out of state. That she was doing well. That she was excited about the baby. I didn't ask questions. I didn't want details. The idea that she could just continue start fresh, while I was still untangling myself from the wreckage felt unfair. But life isn't a courtroom. No verdicts. No justice. Dating again was brutal. I compared everyone to her, then resented myself for it. I pulled away at the first sign of intimacy, afraid of being blindsided again. Trust, once broken that deeply, doesn't come back easily. It seeps back slowly, if at all. Some nights, I still draft messages to her in my head. Not angry ones anymore. Just honest ones. About how much it hurt. About how disappearing like that left scars she'll never see. I never send them. Maybe that's growth. Or maybe it's just resignation. Telling my family the full story took nearly a year. I'd carried it alone for so long that it felt strange to share. My mother cried. My father got quiet in that way he does when he's trying not to say something unforgivable. My sister was furious on my behalf. Their reactions were validating, but also painful. Seeing people who love you hurt because of your pain adds another layer to the grief. I realized how much of my identity had been wrapped up in that relationship. The plans. The routines. The person I was with her. Losing that forced me to ask uncomfortable questions about who I was without it. I wasn't just mourning her. I was mourning the version of myself who believed love was something you could fully understand and control if you just did it right. That innocence is gone now. I don't think it ever comes back once it's lost. But I've also learned things. About boundaries. About listening to my gut. About not confusing comfort with commitment. Lessons I wish I hadn't had to learn this way. People love to ask what the silver lining is. I still don't know how to answer that. I suppose I'm more self-aware now. More honest with myself about what I need and what I won't tolerate. I don't ignore red flags anymore. I don't apologize for asking questions. But there are costs to that awareness. I'm slower to trust. Slower to open up. I keep parts of myself guarded because I know how easily they can be taken. Sometimes I wonder if she ever thinks about me. If there's a moment, late at night, when she remembers the life she walked away from with a single text. I doubt it. And even if she does, it doesn't change anything. Meaning isn't something I found in the aftermath. It's something I'm still trying to build, piece by piece, in a life that looks nothing like the one I thought I'd have. Some days are easier than others. Some days the memory still hits like a wave. There are questions I'll never have answers to. When did it start? How long did she know? Was I ever an option, or just a delay? I've learned that unanswered questions don't disappear. They just get quieter over time. I don't check her social media. I don't ask mutual friends anymore. I've accepted that whatever truth exists now belongs to her life, not mine. Still, there's a strange intimacy in being betrayed so deeply. A connection that doesn't fade easily, even when everything else does. I hate that. I hate that someone who hurt me so completely still occupies space in my mind. But pretending otherwise would be another kind of lie. It's been 3 years. I'm in a new relationship, slowly and cautiously. She knows what happened. She knows why I sometimes go quiet. She's patient in a way that feels undeserved but welcome. I still flinch when my phone buzzes unexpectedly. I still feel a tightening in my chest when plans change suddenly. But I'm better than I was. Not healed. Just better. I don't hate Maya anymore. Hate requires energy. I don't forgive her either. Forgiveness feels too neat for something that messy. What I feel now is distance. Emotional, psychological, temporal distance. And maybe that's enough. If there's anything I've learned, it's this: people can disappear from your life in ways you never imagined, leaving behind damage they'll never have to see. You can do everything right and still be blindsided. You can love honestly and still be lied to. None of that makes you weak. I used to think closure came from conversations, apologies, explanations. Now I think it comes from accepting that some people choose escape over accountability. I still live with the echo of that message sometimes. I can't be with you. I'm pregnant with someone else's child. It doesn't hurt like it used to. But it shaped me. Permanently. If you're reading this and something feels off in your relationship, don't ignore it just because you're afraid of what you might find. Trust yourself. Even if the truth breaks your heart, living in a lie breaks you more slowly, and far more completely.